Hello, this is Alexis, and today we are going to discuss a very controversial topic. Which is the best electric unicycle to start off with? I can answer pretty much straight away to that. The one you want, and the one you think it suits better your needs and budget. Before we dig deeper into the topic, a bit of background info about myself to give you a bit more context and an idea of where all of my tips are coming from. I've started riding electric unicycle in August 2021, and my first wheel was the Kingsong 16X. I had a hate and love relationship with the Kingsong. To date, I have about 5,000 miles of EUC riding experience under my belt. I will share my journey of how I have started, what I didn't like, and what I loved about the KS 16X. But for now, let's go back to the main topic. It might be no news, but it is important to keep in mind that there is no perfect EUC, even less so a perfect starting one. However, there are a few considerations that might help you in your choice. First of all, ask yourself, why are you thinking of buying one? Commuting, fun, jumps, tricks, single tracks, social group events, adrenaline rush, keeping fit, or simply a bit of everything? Second of all, ask yourself, which is your budget? Can you purchase multiple ones for different purposes, or do you need to limit your choice to one or maximum two EUCs? Third, are you keen on suspension wheels or not really? Fourth, which is more important for you? Performance, safety, extra features such as a touch screen, Bluetooth speakers, bright lights, and stuff like that. Based on all of these factors, you can start branching out into different options. There are a lot of wheels coming out now, as well as older yet solid options on the market. Now, I will discuss my take on the meta. Let's start considering the size. For simplicity, I would have two main categories: 16-inch diameter wheels or less, and 16-inch diameter wheels and above. Both comes with its pros and cons, which I will share with you. Just keep in mind, these are general considerations and they might not apply to all. So let's start. Some of the pros of smaller wheels are they are generally cheaper, they are easier to learn on, they are more agile because they typically weigh less than bigger diameter wheels. They are easier to carry. It is possible, for instance, to use them as a last mile commute. Some even fit into a backpack, like the Mid-10 series. Some cons of smaller wheels are they tend to be limited in speed. Usually they don't run more than 30 miles an hour, unless it is the high-speed V12, for instance, that I think it goes up to 40. However, they are less stable and at higher speeds due to the smaller diameter, so it is easier to experience wobbles. Also, because they are smaller, they cannot fit as much battery in their chassis as bigger counterparts. Therefore, they will have a bit less range. Nevertheless, this is not always true, due to their limited max speed that allows them to be more energy efficient. Think of a Master 40T versus a Kingsong 16X, for instance. The first one is usually 40 miles of range, whereas the 16X can go for about 50 miles, depending on riders' weight, aggressiveness, and a lot of other more factors, but I won't dwell into it. Now, let's look into some general characteristics of the bigger wheels. Some of the pros: they are generally faster, better range, more stable at higher speeds. Typically, bigger wheels tend to be better all-rounders, like the Sherman, the Master, the EXN, etc. However, looking at some cons of the bigger diameter wheels, they typically take longer and it takes a bit more effort to learn on. The lower legs could bruise and swell more. Yes, it does typically happen to new riders. I had the infamous purple legs to my first couple of weeks riding. Next, let's look at some pros and cons of opting for a suspension version. Pros could be a cushier, comfier ride, the possibility of rebound adjustments so you can have the best of both worlds. However, some of the cons could be more elements that could possibly break, more parts to learn and understand. They are not always easy to adjust if cheap materials have been used. Higher pedals that could take longer to adjust and might lead to more wobbles if the rider is inexperienced. Another consideration before purchasing a wheel would be which brand should I go for? This is a very controversial topic again, therefore I will try to keep it concise while I outline my opinion on the matter. We have Gotaway or Begode. Why would we choose that? Performance. Safety on a Begode wheel is more questionable than the counterparts. Most fires occurred on Gotaway wheels, although this statement is arguable because they are also the most popular and outnumbered other manufacturers in terms of sold wheels, as far as I've read and knew, but I could be wrong, obviously. Kingsong came out with plenty of solid wheels, like the 16X, the 18XL, etc. Unfortunately, not always spot on from batch 1, such as the 16X or the KS S20. Cut-off issues and, for instance, on the S22, the motor slippage and the fire problem. Well, at the time it was called S20, which was the pre-production wheel. However, they seem to have invested on safety feature, such as smart BMS, allowing to check the voltage of every cell group, which is a major thing in terms of fire prevention. Next is Inmotion, which is also a company that invested in safety, but most of all, innovation. The V12 had the first touchscreen with all of the controls possible to change on the wheel directly. Sound wave to alert passerby, pedal height adjustability. The drawbacks of these technological advancements were that they not always worked, leading to major cut-offs and recalls. Unfortunately, Inmotion parts are hard to come by, so customers had to wait for months to replace their motherboards. For instance, in their new Inmotion V12, which had cut-off problems due to, I think it was a MOSFET issue. But again, I could be wrong, just take everything with a pinch of salt, just to give you an idea. And then you can just do some research and gather an even better idea. However, always talking about Inmotion, looking at the specs of the V13 with double old sensors and smart BMS, the company seemed to take safety feature quite seriously. Let's hope the wheel will deliver from batch 1, considering how much it costs. Leaperkim is a company built from some of Gotaway engineers that decided to move away and form something new. And oh boy, they did extremely well with the Sherman. The very first wheel built like a tank, top weight and top speed. Unexpectedly, to most, this proved to be a success. The solidity of the frame, the flexibility of the roll bar, the big battery with top-notch speed, with riders going for 1,000 miles with no issues, made it one of the most popular wheels on the market. Leaperkim could not keep up with the demands, as its reliable Sherman was going a long way, represented a solid investment that could last for thousands of miles. Unfortunately, this not proved the same as with the Abrams, which had and still is having huge cut-off issues that is bringing riders into danger. So every company has its pros and cons, like everything in life. Another thing to keep in mind, and that saddens me, is that there are plenty of scammers around pretending to sell EUCs, but really only wanting the cash. So really be very, very, very careful. And this goes for first buyers and even for experienced riders. Everyone can, unfortunately, fall for one of those scammers. Some of the tips to avoid being scammed could be: ask the seller to take a picture of the EUC with, next to it, a piece of paper with written their name and today's date, in order to prove that they actually own the wheel and they didn't have stolen the pictures from others, which unfortunately, again, happens way too much. Do some research on your local dealer's website to find out the specs and how the machine should look like. Check the written or video reviews of the wheel that interests you, so if a scammer tells you something that it is incorrect, you will be able to spot it. You can ask your dealers for advice or your EUC friends. The community online is also always happy to help. And You can also ask me in the comments below. If you have doubts or needs advice, I'll try to help you the best I can. This is everything for this video. If you have any comments or questions, please ask away. Ciao ciao!